Welcome to MojoPlays, and we're not just trying to survive 5 nights, but the entire Freddy's timeline. We'll be primarily focusing on the games, although there will be some important lore and narrative moments from the novels and other media, just to give us the clearest canonical timeline of events of Freddy and his pizzeria. We're also not saying this is the definitive timeline of events, as a lot of the history of Five Nights at Freddy's is open to interpretation and endless theorizing. But we feel this is as close as we can get with the current evidence we have so far. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The story of Five Nights at Freddy's is a tale of corporate greed, tragedy, senseless murder, and unending horrors. But the real story begins before Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria even opened its doors. The idea of a bear-themed attraction likely began when a young William Afton attended a Fredbear singing show, which featured a real bear performing for audiences with food and drinks served alongside the main attraction. This passion to recreate this transformative experience eventually led to William Afton meeting and partnering with mechanical genius Henry Emily, and the eventual establishing of the original Fredbear's Family Diner in the 70s, featuring 2 springlock suits of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. The springlock suits allowed a person to climb inside and perform as the animatronic, but due to the temperamental nature of the springlocks, the suits were incredibly dangerous. Even the slightest bit of moisture or improper use could cause the springlocks to break loose, impaling whoever happens to be inside. Because of this severe design flaw, Afton and Emily turned to fellow inventor and creative Edwin Murray of Murray's Costume Manor. Edwin and his wife Fiona, whom he met while working at his father's factory, eventually married and had a son named David. Edwin took over the company after his father passed, and his inventions led to a new golden age for the company. For a while at least. Soon, Murray's inventions began to malfunction, leading to multiple lawsuits that were bleeding the company dry. Murray teamed up with Afton and Emily's Fazbear Entertainment to begin work on new, more advanced versions of the animatronics for Fazbear Entertainment's new ventures into family entertainment, namely Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. Likely due to the stress of trying to keep the company afloat and the constant demands and updates to almost completed projects by Fazbear Entertainment, Edwin buries himself in his work, avoiding his family to the point where he misses important dates, even his son David's 3rd birthday.
That's great, honey, but you're missing the party.
David's 2 years old. He won't remember a thing.
That's not the point.
However, Edwin's life was about to get much more stressful. Tragically, his wife Fiona died in a fire at one of the Fall Fest events Murray's Costume Manor was working with, leaving workaholic Edwin to care for his young son David alone. To ensure his work didn't get interrupted, Edwin created an endoskeleton he calls M1, or Mimic 1, to take care of David as he continues to work. The M1 is much more than just a new animatronic, however. M1 is capable of not only mimicking speech and voices, but can also learn and manipulate its size. By the time of David's 4th birthday, M1, or as it's now known, F10N4, has been fully integrated as David's replacement mother, even replicating Fiona's voice. But even this new version of Edwin's family is short-lived, as while preparing for David's 5th birthday party, David unfortunately dies playing on the playground near the loading dock.
All this time wasted? I should have been having fun with him, playing games and teaching him how to make things. But I didn't.
In his grief, F10N4 convinces Edwin to make another mimic to replace David. Edwin lashes out at F10N4, but eventually relents and creates a new version of the mimic program, M2. In doing so, he stores F10N4 in a massive database underneath the MCM facility. During all of this tragedy, Fazbear Entertainment, specifically William Afton, are taking advantage of Edwin's constant grief and slowly tearing down Edwin's company from the inside by poaching his employees and attempting to steal all of his designs. Some former employees even start their own company and use Edwin's designs to create the mediocre Melodies animatronics. Fazbear Entertainment would eventually come to own the land MCM was built on, and soon even all of the creations and designs for animatronics Edwin and Fiona had created. Stressed over the loss of his family and the company he inherited from his father, Edwin finally snaps when he finds M2 mimicking David's voice. He beats the robot and, due to M2's mimic programming, inadvertently teaches the robot violence. F10 and 4, noticing the change in M2's behavior, begs Edwin to fix M2. but after her pleas are ignored, she asks Edwin to merge M2 with her inside her cradle so she can keep M2 safe until Edwin repairs M2's programming. Meanwhile, M2's programming continues to evolve, allowing it to mimic not just other people, but adapt to any of the animatronics' behaviors within the facility, allowing it to put on any costume and become that character instantly. M2 attempts to make repairs to itself after Edwin's attack in his home office, but a power surge causes an explosion which injures the real Edwin. Edwin begs for M2 to get him help, pleading with his creation and begging for forgiveness. But M2 coldly replies with one of the many excuses Edwin gave to David when the boy asked to play.
Respond! Oh, can't right now, buddy. We can do something fun tomorrow. I promise. Ask your mom if she's not busy.
Edwin likely dies from his injuries, and M2 returns to Murray's costume manor. In 1979, Fazbear Entertainment sends multiple employees to MCM to claim what they refer to as their proprietary designs, as they now own most of MCM. However, when none of these employees return with the designs, specifically the schematics for M2, Fazbear Entertainment blackmails another one of their employees, Arnold, to go to the facility and recover them.
I'm doing it because you guys keep threatening to dock my pay and repo my truck.
I love that enthusiasm.
Shortly after arriving at the facility, Arnold encounters the M2, or just simply the Mimic, and uncovers not only the events that led to the facility's downfall, but also the fate of the other Fazbear Entertainment employees sent inside who were promptly killed by the Mimic and stuffed inside costumes around the building. F10N4 replaces the dispatch office Arnold had been in contact with in an attempt to get Arnold to bring her the M2 schematics to finally repair M2 and stop its murderous rampage. Eventually, and after numerous encounters with the Mimic inhabiting many of MCM's creations, Arnold acquires the schematics. However, instead of handing them over, Arnold can instead initiate the parachute program, which ends up taking him deeper into the facility. Arnold finds himself in MCM's R&D department and discovers Edwin built a mock-up of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria within the building to design his prototypes for Afton and Emily. After once again narrowly escaping the Mimic, Arnold finally finds F10N4's cradle where she asks him to bring a message to Edwin to repair M2, unaware of Edwin's likely demise at the hands of the Mimic.
We must convince him to repair M2. That is all that I want. If you do not, M2 will never stop pursuing you.
Arnold makes his way to Edwin's house through a series of tunnels under MCM, and after downloading the Cradle program, is once again pursued by the Mimic. During his escape, Arnold accidentally starts a fire, and as F10N4's pre-recorded message for Edwin plays, Arnold narrowly escapes the burning and crumbling building.
We hope you were inspired by our showroom tour, and that you leave here with exciting new ideas to make your family fun centers even more spectacular than they already are.
Arnold manages to reach his van and escape the facility, but not before the Mimic catches him, causing him to crash the vehicle. As the van burns, the Mimic steals Arnold's device containing the M2 schematics and leaves Arnold to perish in the van's fire. Four years later, in 1983, during the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 minigames, we find Afton's young son, simply known as the Crying Child, in the week leading up to his birthday party. Afton, much like Edwin, is a workaholic and leaves much of the babysitting duties to his oldest son Michael, who torments the Crying Child relentlessly by constantly scaring him. Finally, at the Crying Child's birthday party, Michael and his friends put the Crying Child in Fredbear's mouth as a prank. Unfortunately, the Springlock's flawed design and likely the Crying Child's endless stream of tears lead Fredbear to malfunction and its jaws clamp down on the child's head. The Crying Child doesn't immediately die and is instead in a coma. We can see different voices speaking to the child within the void, first Michael, who apologizes, and then likely William Afton, who tells the child he will put him back together. The Crying Child passes away shortly after, and William buries him in an unmarked grave near his home. That same year, and shortly after the Crying Child's death, Henry Emily, also a workaholic, designs the puppet to keep his daughter Charlie safe and inside one of Freddy Fazbear's pizzerias while he works. Charlie's green bracelet helps the puppet keep track of her and prevents her from leaving the building. Unfortunately, some bullies manage to trap the puppet and lock Charlie outside in the rain at night. Afton, on his way home from a nearby bar, sees Charlie alone outside, and for some reason, whether it was frustration that Henry's child was still alive or some other kind of malice, kills her and dumps her body in the alley before driving away. The puppet is eventually able to free itself and makes its way outside, finding Charlie already dead. As the rain begins to cause the puppet to malfunction, it crawls over to Charlie's lifeless body and shuts down beside her. From here, Charlie's spirit inhabits the puppet. After Charlie's death, Henry likely suspected Afton was behind the heinous act, but without any evidence, was powerless to do anything. It was also after Charlie's death that Afton noticed a change in the puppet's behavior and began to suspect that Charlie's spirit might now be inhabiting it. In an attempt to recreate this phenomena, Afton opens a new restaurant with the sole purpose of capturing and murdering children to replicate the event. Circus Baby's Pizza World opens sometime around 1985 and features fun-time versions of familiar Freddy's characters, including some of Afton's own designs, specifically Circus Baby herself. Circus Baby was a springlock costume that had a claw inside designed to grab children and hide them inside her stomach for Afton to later murder and hopefully haunt whatever animatronic was nearby. Unfortunately, and despite repeated warnings to stay away from the animatronics, Afton's daughter Elizabeth was tempted by an ice cream offered by Circus Baby, captured, and sadly dies in the machine. Afton immediately shuts down Circus Baby's Pizza World days before its opening, claiming the reason to be gas leaks. Yet, despite this horrific setback, Afton's plan was still successful as Elizabeth possessed Circus Baby. Also likely due to this event, Afton has all of Fazbear Entertainment phase out all the dangerous Springlock suits. However, even after his successful experiment, Afton isn't finished and looks to continue his research, which will require more test subjects. Afton proceeds to use an old Spring Bonnie costume and uses numerous tactics to lure kids into the building's safe room. A room specifically designed to be off the building's schematics, off camera, and outside of the animatronics programming. Although the exact number is unknown, we do know he killed at least 5 or 6 children using these strategies. Afton then hides the bodies of the children inside the animatronics stored in the safe room, and Puppet Charlie then awakens their spirit to inhabit the animatronics. The victims we know of are Gabriel, who possesses Freddy, Fritz, who haunts Foxy, Susie, who is Chica, Jeremy, who becomes Bonnie, and Cassidy, who becomes Golden Freddy. Parents naturally report their children missing, and management at Freddy's Pizzeria even noticed the Spring Bonnie suit has been regularly moved, but without any evidence, the missing children cases go cold. Given the numerous children disappearing, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria is shut down, but Afton's experiments are far from over. After opening Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals, Afton designs an underground facility to continue his research. Children are placed in what they believe to be their bedroom, and hallucinogenic gases are used to make the test subjects believe that nightmarish versions of the Fazbear animatronics were attacking them at night. There is speculation that this experiment was designed after the crying child's constant night terrors, and Afton looked to recreate these effects. It's also believed he experimented on his son Michael as punishment for the crying child's death. 2 years after Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria closed down, Fazbear Entertainment once again attempted to relaunch the brand as Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1987. Rather than build a new location, Fazbear overhauled the existing Fazbear's Pizzeria with all new animatronics with new facial recognition technology linked to the criminal database, as well as advanced mobility to roam the building. Jeremy Fitzgerald is hired as night security after the first guard quit. After surviving 4 nights at the new establishment, Jeremy receives a phone call from his supervisor Ralph telling him that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza would be closing down for the foreseeable future after someone had used one of the animatronics, the yellow one, and had somehow caused all the other animatronics to malfunction. After Afton seemingly killed more children who in turn possessed the new animatronics, the old machines also returned, however, now in a state of disrepair as the staff had used them for spare parts for their replacements. After managing to survive all 6 nights, Jeremy is moved to the day shift to keep an eye over the animatronics during the pizzeria's last party and make sure the machines don't harm any of the children.
We have one more event scheduled for tomorrow. It's our birthday. You'll be on day shift. Wear your uniform. Stay close to the animatronic. Make sure they don't hurt anyone, okay?
It's likely that Jeremy is the victim of the infamous Bite of 87, in which one of the animatronics bit the frontal lobe off one of the attendees. 6 years later, Fazbear Entertainment once again attempts to reopen Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This time having repaired the old animatronics, but restricting them to the stage to prevent any further accidents like in 1987. Mike Schmidt starts his job as a night security guard, and through recordings from Ralph, learns about the animatronics' strange behavior. Some fans believe that Mike is actually Michael Afton, which is evidenced by Mike drawing Nightmare Freddy from the experiments in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, although this connection is never confirmed. After surviving all 7 nights, Mike is fired for tampering with the animatronics. Sometime later, Afton returns to destroy the animatronics and steal their endoskeletons for more experiments. Afton discovered through his experiments that the metal of the endoskeletons is essentially haunted by what he calls remnant. Afton believes that if he melts down the skeletons, he can use the remnant to bring other animatronics to life, such as the Funtime animatronics from Circus Baby's Pizza World. Afton even designed a device called the Scooper to extract remnants from his subjects. While he's systematically dismantling the animatronics at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, he instructs Michael to go to the underground facility for Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals, and is unfortunately trapped and terrorized by the animatronics, who likely mistake Michael for William. Circus Baby, still possessed by his sister Elizabeth, assists Michael in surviving the other animatronics. However, Elizabeth, much like her father, has her own plans and manipulates Michael. Elizabeth, along with the other animatronics, use the Scooper to remove their endoskeletons and combine them to become Ennard, an amalgamation of endoskeletons and wires. Elizabeth then tricks Michael on the 5th night into the scooping room and turns on the machine. Which scoops out Michael's insides and then wears Michael like a costume to escape the facility. However, this freedom is short-lived as Michael's body begins to decompose, forcing Ennard to abandon the body into the sewers. However, Michael doesn't die and is instead kept alive by the Scooper's other function, which injected his body with remnant as it hollowed him out. During this same time, Afton has returned to the safe room of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and is confronted by the spirits of the children now free from the animatronics. Seeing no way out, Afton attempts to hide in the spring Bonnie suit, but as he laughs at the children's misfortune, the spring locks inside the suit go off, impaling him and slowly killing him as he bleeds out in the room where he committed so many horrific murders. 30 years later, an amusement park decides to make an attraction out of the horrific history of Freddy Fazbear and opens Fazbear's Fright, and advertises the use of real relics from the old pizzeria. A week before the attraction is set to open, a night guard is assigned to watch over the attraction. Bone Dude keeps the night guard up to date with the progress of setting up the attraction, and on the 2nd night, excitedly tells the guard they'd found a real complete animatronic.
You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one.
The organizers had found the remains of Afton still trapped inside the animatronic and brought him to the attraction, where he now hunts the security guard. After surviving 6 nights, Fazbear's Fright somehow burns to the ground, either due to faulty wiring or arson. However, despite the severity of the fire, Afton, now Springtrap, survives.
There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you.
Later the same year, in 2023, Henry Emily returns and has uncovered all of the horrendous acts committed by his former business partner William Afton and sets a trap for all the animatronics, including Afton. In the time since scooping Michael, Ennard has ejected Elizabeth's spirit, forcing her to reassemble Circus Baby using scraps and taking the name Scrap Baby. While Ennard became Molten Freddy and has become a mess of wires and leaking remnant, donning a Funtime Freddy mask. To ensure all the animatronics and spirits return, Henry captures the puppet with his daughter Charlie's spirit still inside and transfers her to a new animatronic bear named Lefty. Henry also inadvertently hires Michael Afton, who replied to an ad to manage the facility. One by one, the animatronics are lured to the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, and Michael captures them, securing them in separate rooms. Once all the animatronics have been secured, Henry enacts his plan and sets the pizza place ablaze, burning all the animatronics, melting their remnant, and allowing Michael to finally die. Henry also sacrifices himself to ensure his plan is enacted while condemning Afton to the darkest pits of hell.
Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, old friend.
A few years later, around 2028, and after years of the Fazbear Entertainment name being associated with so much death and tragedy, Fazbear Entertainment enacts a plan to save the company as part of an overhauled rebrand. First, they hire an indie game developer to create games based on the real-world events of the Freddy's Pizzerias to not only sway public interest, but also relegate the brand's horrific past to nothing more than an urban legend. When this attempt fails, they throw the developer under the bus and claim no association with the creators. This setback didn't deter Fazbear Entertainment, however, and they hired a new studio to not only rewrite their own history, but also to discredit the previous game's efforts. However, to speed up production, Fazbear sends the developer Silver Parasol Games old circuit boards to scan and replicate the animatronics' behaviors. This proves to be detrimental as a malicious code called Glitchtrap emerges within the game and immediately begins to corrupt it. A game tester named Jeremy is tormented by Glitchtrap to the point where he performs reconstructive surgery on himself using a paper guillotine. Undeterred, production continues for a few more days before the game is planned to be passed to another studio, with yet another tester filling in for Jeremy to complete his tests of the game. The tester, known only as Tape Girl, documented her findings on Glitchtrap and stored the recordings within the game, which Glitchtrap managed to attach himself to, preventing his deletion from the game. After the game moves to its new developer, game tester Vanessa finds Tape Girl's recordings and, as she collects them, reassembles Glitchtrap. Tape Girl believes that Glitchtrap wants to escape the game by attaching himself to a host. Vanessa attempts to prevent Glitchtrap from doing this, but ultimately fails, and part of Glitchtrap manages to merge with her. Upon exiting the game, Vanessa begins to talk to a stuffed rabbit and mentions a mask she made herself, and that no one suspects a thing.
I understand. Yes, I have it. I made it myself. I think you would like it. No one suspects anything.
Despite numerous setbacks, Fazbear Entertainment pushes forward with their ultimate plans, opening the massive Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex, an enormous mall-like attraction with all new glam rock versions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Roxanne Wolf, and staffed entirely by staff bots instead of humans. Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex was also built over the remnants of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, where Henry burned the remains of Afton's horrific acts almost a decade earlier. Vanessa has also been employed by Fazbear Entertainment and is promoted to head of security at the Mega Pizzaplex, where she plans to use her credentials to lure unsuspecting victims for her and Glitchtrap to murder. Another person seemingly under Glitchtrap's influence is a young boy named Gregory, who is eventually traced by the IT department to be responsible for the numerous glitches affecting the animatronics' behavior. During Gregory's manipulation of the Pizzaplex's system, he encounters a girl named Cassie, whose father works as a technician and is there for her birthday party, although none of her friends show up. However, Roxanne Wolf, Cassie's favorite animatronic, attends her party, and Gregory and Cassie become friends. Shortly after, Gregory somehow breaks free of Glitchtrap's control and finds himself locked inside the Pizzaplex after hours. At the same time, Glamrock Freddy experiences a malfunction and reboots in safe mode, finding Gregory hiding within his chest compartment. Gregory and Freddy team up to escape the Pizzaplex, while avoiding the other animatronics and Vanessa, still under Glitchtrap's influence, donning her now complete Vanny bunny costume. In order to upgrade Freddy and escape, Gregory traps and dismantles the other animatronics and steals their parts to make Freddy stronger. Although they have the opportunity to escape, Gregory and Freddy decide to confront Vanny, who ambushes the pair and disassembles Freddy using the staff bots. Gregory escapes the staff bots and attempts to confront Vanny in her hideout. Outside her office, Gregory plays the final arcade game Princess Quest III, which releases Vanessa from Glitchtrap's influence, and the two, including Freddy's decapitated head, finally escape the Pizzaplex. However, sometime later, the Tangle, a collection of animatronic parts fused together in the remains of the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, tunnels out and completely destroys the Pizzaplex, once again forcing Fazbear Entertainment to close down for repairs while promising to reopen at a later date. Also residing within the remains of the Pizza Place is the Mimic. having upgraded itself to Burntrap, and was also likely Glitchtrap, working its way through the system to further update itself using the M2 schematics it stole from Arnold decades earlier. The pair lure the Mimic deeper into the sinkhole and seal it inside a room using concrete and a heavy security door. Also relocating F10 and 4, now redesignated as the Mixes machine, and using its cradle program to contain the Mimic. Gregory and Vanessa add further security nodes within the AR network to further prevent the Mimic's escape. Around the same time, a technician, likely Cassie's father, gets trapped within the AR network, and after eventually finding a way out, encounters remnants of Glitchtrap, hinting at least a part of him still exists within the network's code. After completing all the tasks and acquiring all the Fazforce action figures, he assembles them into the Fazbototron, which also reassembles Glitchtrap, similar to Vanessa collecting all the tapes. Once freed, Glitchtrap summons the staff bots and they rip him apart, turning him into Mascbot, who ends up being integral to the Mimic's escape plan, leading further credence that Glitchtrap and the Mimic are either the same or at the very least directly connected. Sometime later, the Mimic finds a way to contact Cassie, pretending to be Gregory to lure her back to the Pizzaplex and free him from his prison. Cassie immediately encounters the Mascbot, who, unbeknownst to her, is her father, and is given a security mask so she can enter the AR network. F10 and 4, sensing Cassie within the network, reanimates the ruined animatronics to try and prevent her from freeing the Mimic. During her exploration, Cassie encounters Roxanne Wolf, who runs off following the voice of the real Gregory trying to contact Cassie and also stop her from releasing the Mimic. Cassie follows Roxanne through different levels of the Pizzaplex before Roxanne catches Cassie, causing her to cry out. Roxanne seems to recognize Cassie and immediately releases her.
Ah! Let go! Let go!
I'm sorry.
The Mimic once again contacts Cassie, pretending to be Gregory, and guides her to destroy the remaining security nodes in the AR world to free him. The Mimic tells Cassie that Roxanne is the final security node that needs to be deactivated, and as Cassie goes to unlock the node and deactivate Roxanne, Roxanne recognizes Cassie and reminisces about Cassie's birthday party with her before Cassie shuts her down.
So sorry.
I love carrot cake. Happy birthday, Cassie.
Roxanne, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
After Roxanne's deactivation, the entrance to the tunnel leading down to the old Freddy Fazbear's pizza place opens and Cassie makes her way down. Cassie also encounters Mixes and shuts it down as well, disabling the final security measure between the Mimic and Freedom. Cassie then uses a nearby forklift to break through the concrete and upon entering the makeshift prison, discovers she hasn't been talking to Gregory at all, but the Mimic.
You're not Gregory. What are you?
I'm Gregory.
Just before the Mimic can make Cassie his next victim, somehow Roxanne appears and holds the Mimic back, instructing Cassie to run for her life. The real Gregory finally makes contact and attempts to help her escape. Cassie finds an elevator, narrowly escaping the Mimic. After Gregory contacts her again, explaining the situation, he tells her they can't risk being followed before the elevator drops into freefall, leaving the fate of Cassie and the Mimic unknown.
No!
And that is the complete timeline of Five Nights at Freddy's that we know as of right now. What part of Freddy's history did you find the most shocking? Did we miss something you thought was important? Share your stories in the comments. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.